Hey everyone, I'm Joe Brady and welcome. Today we're going to explore setting up a small and portable studio with Speedlights. We're going to begin exploring all the wonderful portraits you can create with Speedlights. Now you might be wondering, is this at all possible? A portrait studio with Speedlights. Can you really get professional results with small flash units like these? Well, not only is it possible, but it's become really easy to get great results without a lot of additional gear. Now, are you sitting down? On top of that, we're going to take advantage of the functionality that TTL flashes offer because we've got some new gear that really makes it easy to control. Yes, I know, you might be shocked. Joe's using TTL Speedlights. Now, I admit, I've spent a lot of years using studio strobes, and I've always been a big fan of full manual control and metering each and every light. But I didn't always work this way. And I know a lot of you are comfortable with Speedlights and the automatic control that they give you for your photography. Many wedding and event photographers prefer using TTL systems because they do adapt very quickly to moving subjects and quickly changing distances. We're going to explore taking these same lights that are commonly used for that type of event and put them to use in a small and portable portrait studio. And one obvious thing is they do offer the advantage of small weight, battery power, and portability. Another great benefit is that the Photix Mitros Plus flash system can be integrated into your existing photo kit with other Speedlights you already own. With a little bit of know-how and understanding of how TTL systems work, these lights can provide great results for your studio portraits. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a trip to my home studio to see what you can do with these TTL flashes. We'll talk about how they work and explore some of the light shapers that give you more control over your light patterns. Now keep in mind, this is just an introduction because there's a lot you can accomplish both in your own studio and on location with clients using these lights. Now my studio is very appropriate for this type of gear because it's really not all that big. It's roughly a 12-foot by 20-foot space and my ceilings aren't even 8 foot tall. Now you can work in an even smaller space as you'll see with the background we're going to be using. We'll start by exploring some of the gear used, including the Mitros Plus flash and the Odin radio trigger system. It's also important that you have an understanding of exactly how TTL metering systems work and how to adjust for those times when you're going to need to increase or decrease the flash power. This is common when dealing with either light or dark backgrounds. After this introduction, we're going to put them to use and take some portraits. So let's head to Warwick, New York and Dragonfly Studio and see the Photix Mitros Plus Speedlights put to work. Many people are big fans of TTL or through-the-lens metering systems, and the introduction of some new flashes has made this way of controlling light much quicker to master. I've recently started using the Photix Mitros Plus flash systems and have been amazed at the quality and the performance. In addition, the Photix system makes it simple to put any light you already have to use in a mixed TTL manual lighting set. Now we have to start somewhere, so let's see what we can do in an affordable home studio. We're going to start out very basic. I'm going to start today with just one light and then we'll continue to using up to 3 lights. Now I mentioned that I'm using the Photix Mitros Plus flash, so let's take a little closer look at this unit. The Mitros Plus is a powerful TTL speedlight that has some unique features. It's available in models that are TTL compatible with Nikon, Canon, and Sony cameras. Now you need to get the unit that matches your camera so that they can talk to each other. The flash is simply powered by 4 AA batteries, but it does have the capability to use external battery packs, which will both speed up recycling and give you longer shooting times. Now, what makes these flashes unique is that they contain both radio transmitters and receivers. You can use a flash on your camera hot shoe to control other off-camera flashes, or you can use a separate transmitter, this is called the Odin, to control your flash both with TTL or manual controls remotely. Now, since the flash can transmit both optically and with radio signals, the Mitros Plus is able to work with other flashes from the company that makes your camera system. So what that means is even if I have another flash, say my Sony flash from my Sony camera that does not operate radio, it operates optically. This flash will send out the optical signals so that my Sony flash can operate TTL off camera. There are lots of possibilities and capabilities that these flashes have, but I want to start shooting as soon as possible. Now, one more topic I want to address before we actually start shooting is just a quick explanation of how TTL metering works. Now, TTL, or through the lens metering, is what your camera does to calculate exposure in any of its automatic modes. Program, aperture, and shutter priority modes on your camera all use the camera's TTL system for this. Now, the TTL system measures the amount of light coming through the lens and hitting your camera sensor. And when it decides enough light has arrived based on your camera settings, it stops the exposure and closes the shutter. TTL flash works the same way. When the camera has measured that enough light has illuminated the camera sensor, it turns off the flash. Now, this works in all modes on your camera, even manual. If your camera's on manual, the TTL flash will adjust its output so that you get the correct exposure based on your settings. In general, your camera sees a perfect exposure as if the entire amount of light hitting the sensor measures out to a middle gray, like we see here on this gray card. Now, this is important to know because there are going to be times when this does not create the best exposure. Now, for an average scene with a mid-range background color, that works great. But if you're shooting on a white or black background or near one of those extremes, the average tone for the correct exposure is going to be lighter or darker than this middle gray. So if you're using TTL metering on a white background, your shot's probably going to be underexposed. Remember, it's averaging the entire scene out to gray. So if you have this huge amount of white, it's going to bring the exposure down so that happens. Now, conversely, if you're using a black background, you're probably going to overexpose your subject because, again, it wants to take that black background and average it out to gray. Fortunately, this is fairly easy to adjust for. Both your camera and your flash have the ability to compensate up and down for just these situations. I can do a flash compensation on the camera. I can bring down the TTL power on the flash. Simply add more flash for white or light backgrounds, bring it up maybe a stop or so, and bring down the power a bit for black or dark backgrounds. With a little practice and experience, you'll quickly learn just how much of an adjustment you'll need to make in these situations so that you get a great exposure. For our studio set, I'm using a simple small fold-up background to do headshots with. It's this thing right here. It's actually made by Denny. This thing actually folds down into a circular case just about this big. Now, for longer or full-length portraits, I'd move up to using a roll of photo paper on a background stand. You can probably see that over behind there. And we're going to use this later on. Both of these solutions make for a very inexpensive yet effective background system for the small home studio. We're going to start making some portraits soon, and we're going to begin with the most simple possibility, one flash on the camera. To get good results with an on-camera flash, you need a way to make the flash bounce off of another surface so that you can add some direction to the light hitting your subject. Now, there are a couple of choices you have when you need to bounce light. You can use a wall or ceiling if it's low enough or close enough. However, since light looks more natural coming from one side, I'm going to simply bounce my flash into a reflector to illuminate my subject. Again, this is a very inexpensive way to add a lot more light size to this small flash. Because it's a larger surface, it spreads the light from the flash as it bounces off the reflector, and this creates a more gentle light fall off from light to dark. All of these flashes rotate left and right and up and down. So I'm going to have our model on the set, and I'm going to position the flash so that basically it's pointing that way. I'm going to bounce it into the flash right onto our subject. So let's get Tristan on the set and we can start shooting. So we've got Tristan on set. Nice to see you again. Tristan always has interesting hair, but she can pull this off like nobody, so it really works. Also, I got to give you a plug. This girl's going to FIT in the fall. She is one of the most talented clothing designers I have ever come across. The outfit she's wearing, she made. So this girl's going to be famous someday. I've got my flash on camera. Horrors, you wouldn't think I'd ever do that. There is a little diffusing dome that comes with the Mitros Plus. I'm going to take it off first and just shoot a couple of shots head on. So you ready? And it's casting a very heavy shadow under her chin. Yeah, it's kind of a harsh look. So really using a flash on camera is a great idea, but not directly. You really need to bounce it off of something else. You can bounce it off a ceiling, as I mentioned, or a wall, but you don't have control of those usually, and often they're colored in some way. So we're gonna just bring in a simple reflector, and we're gonna shoot into that first. Now right over here, I'm gonna hide you a second. I've got basically a simple silver reflector. And since this flash can rotate any way I want, just by putting it sideways, I can get it to bounce into that, and then the light becomes practically this entire thing. So I'm going to go ahead and position this. Think of this as a pool table, because I want the light to bounce just like a pool ball. So I'm going to push the light into here and use the big side. Now I'm going to go to a short lighting with Tristan, so that means I'm going to have her head turn towards the light, and I'm going to have her just look at me with her eyes. So let me bring this back a little. I'm actually going to turn the flash so that's a little backwards, because remember, again, I want it to bounce back to her. All right. Now the light's a little bit more directional. You can see now we've got shadow on one side and light on the other. Considering we were using one light off the camera, not too bad. The other cool thing is I can shoot vertically as well as horizontally. All I need to do is do this. And I'm going to actually have this horizontal this way. So let's do the same thing. This time I'm going to bring it over a little more. And Tristan, if you'd look right here. That's very nice. There we go. That's really nice. So what we've got going on is really a kind of a high ratio where we've got light on one side and shadow on the other. So you can do a lot with this, but it is limited because you are dealing with just the one flash. We don't have control of our ratios. But just the simple act of using one flash on camera and a reflector to bounce in is going to make this a lot better. But let's take it to the next step. Let's take the light and we're going to move it off camera, and to do that we're actually going to start using two lights. All right, so we actually got some half decent results with just one light on the camera shooting into the reflector. It's a decent option. And if you need to pull off something quick, one light, reflector is very inexpensive, a background on a light stand. Yes. And you can set this up anywhere you like, and you have an instant portrait studio. We're going to take it to the next step. We're going to use a second light, and we're going to start to use umbrellas. There's three basic types of umbrellas. This one over here to Tristan's right, we've got a silver reflective umbrella. And I've got the flash firing into that. Silver is the most reflective, so it's going to give you the most light output. Or if I went a little softer light, something a little less specular, we've got a white umbrella here. And then lastly, I've got a shoot-through umbrella, which is basically a translucent white umbrella that you actually shoot through. Now this will create a nice soft light also. This will work well outside, and we'll get to that in another session later on. But in the studio, the downside of these is they throw light everywhere. By the way, when you've got an umbrella in a stand like this, the closer the umbrella is to the flash head, the more dramatic the light will fall off will be. If I have it real far away from the flash like this, it's going to give a very broad, soft light that's going to fade gently. As you bring this in closer, it's going to be a little bit sharper fall off because it's going to be hotter in the center and then fall off to the side. So in order to control two flashes, I've got to set a master-slave system. And by the way, we will cover this in detail in the future. This is just kind of an overview. But the flash on my camera is the master. I've got my flash over here, which I've got set to group B. I can individually change the power of the one on the camera versus the one over here. So if I want this to be the main light, I can set this, say, at 0 EV, just its basic TTL flash. I'll set the one on my camera at -2, so each stop is going to cut down the light by half. So a -2 on my on-camera flash would make for a 4:1 light ratio, which is really nice for portraits. This will be our main, so let's see how we make out with that. Okay, so I've got the one flash, which is going to be our B unit. That's going to be our main, shooting into the umbrella. I've got another one on the top of the camera. I've got this at 2 stops underneath that one. Sounds like a lot of difference. Isn't as much as you'd think, because this is coming in directionally. It's coming straight in. So it's going to contribute on top of what this light is applying to her face over here. Since it's in an umbrella, it is wrapping around to this side of her face a bit. What this flash is going to end up doing is really just filling in the shadow on this side. It's going to be, even though we're at 2:1, or 4:1 rather, with 2 stops, it's still going to be a fairly gentle ratio. Yeah. It's still a very gentle light ratio, but now we have much more control over the light. One of the things about umbrellas, by the way, is they do throw light everywhere. So if we wanted to have light that was not hitting the background, then we're going to use a different kind of light shaper, which we'll end up with. We're going to use a softbox for that in a little bit. Now, I'm using the flash on camera and I've got the flash off. Occasionally, you're going to want to change. But to make it easy, since this flash is what's actually controlling the off-camera flash, I can use it just as a controller and have it not fire. And I can just hit the set button, hit the mode 3 times, and it will turn this flash off. So now this flash is off. Now if I hit the shutter, only that one's going to fire. So I'm just going to have the big off-camera umbrella flash. Let's try that. Oh, I like that a lot. What do you think?
Yes.
That looks really nice. I love the umbrella off camera. It actually gives a much kind of a gentler fall off than we were using when we got just the reflector. It's looking really nice. It also has the background be a little bit darker because I asked Tristan to move a little bit further up. As she moves further from the background, there's less light hitting it and the background's going to continue to get darker and darker. In fact, if you use a light gray background or even a white background, you can almost make it go black if you just keep the light off of it. So I'm going to do a couple more. I'm just going to shoot a couple verticals. Then we're going to use our off-camera flash in a completely different way. Nice. Turn away from me. Kind of put your hand in your hip a little bit, but down. That's it. And yes, right there. Oh, I like that. Actually, that's kind of cool. All right, let's do the same thing, except now, just what you were doing, start to turn back towards me. Tilt your head the other way. And yeah, right there. Yeah, that's nice. So we got some really cool stuff by turning this off and just using the flash on the umbrella. Now we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna use the flash back on camera, and we're gonna find a new use for that. Now we're going to use the second light as a background light and also as a separation light. And I'm going to try that 2 different ways. I'm going to have it off to the side, and I'm also going to have it pointing directly at the back of Tristan's head, so it's going to cause a glow around her hair. It's a cool effect, and it's easy to control. However, because there's some light coming from the back to the front, it can fool the TTL system to think it's got more light than it does. So in this case, I'm going to have to increase the power of the light on the camera. I'm probably going to have to go +1 EV in order to counteract this light that's coming from behind. So 2 different ways. One around her hair, creating a halo. That's appropriate for her. She's always very sweet. And here's the system, by the way. I've just got another Mitros Plus on a short stand. One, I'm going to have it pointing towards her, and then I'm going to point it towards the background. What that's going to do is it's going to create kind of a halo of light that's going to be around her head. It's going to make the background darker on the outside and lighter on the inside, which is going to be kind of cool. Then we'll take the flash and put it off to one side and just have it be a hair light. I'll have it coming down from here, and we'll continue to use this flash on camera. Again, everything we've done leading up to this, I can shoot into the reflector, which I'm going to do as well. But let's see some results. Let's see what we get. Beautiful. All right. So by putting the background light right up against the background, I'll get a hot spot in the middle. Gorgeous, right there. Nice. Do what we did before, looking off to the one side. Now bring your head down a little bit. Beautiful. That's what I was after. Take a look. Pretty cool stuff.
Very cool.
And this is, again, we're using a flash on the camera, which is actually kind of amazing. So let's do a couple of those. We're going to bring our reflector back in, and I'm going to make the light on Tristan more directional by putting that over there. Okay, you're ready, and we're going to shoot right into that. There we go, you ready? Nice, that's much nicer. Love that. Gorgeous. So what this background light is doing is it's serving as a nice separation. You have the dark and the light behind you. It's really letting you, you'd see, it's really letting you separate and show it from the background. Makes it more three-dimensional by doing that. So what's the next step? What else do I need to do? Hair light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the on-camera flash shooting off into my reflector, which is right over here. And I took the second flash and put it up high. We're going to use this as a hair light. And I've got a grid snoot on here, which will keep the light directional, keep it from hitting all of the side of Tristan. I really just want to focus the light right here and add some light to the top of her head. Okay, let's just get a couple of shots. I'm going to shoot a couple of horizontals and a couple of verticals. Again, to do verticals, I'm just going to put the flash off to one side. I've got my reflector here. I want to make sure it's going to bounce back to Tristan. So we've got a nice hair light and a nice reflector, and it's really nice. Chin down a little bit and eyes up a little bit. Yeah, right there. Beautiful. That's what it needed. Beautiful. Yeah, that came out nice. Let's put our light in a softbox and see what we can do to make things even more controlled. What I like about softboxes is they can be much more directional, yet they still create a nice big soft light. So let's set up with our softbox. All right, we're gonna go back to one flash for a minute, because what I've done is I've put the flash in a flash bracket holder on a big studio softbox. Now this is also made by Photix. It's actually designed for their studio lights, but I've got it mounted with my strobe right here. And if you look on the front, I've got a grid on here. And what's nice about the grid is it keeps the light very directional. Doesn't let it spread out anywhere, and that's gonna keep the background much darker. Now I'm going to use the flash on the camera strictly as a controller. It's not going to fire at all. An option that you have, if you don't have two flashes and you just want to start with one, is to get the separate controller. This is an Odin controller, and this is basically all of the electronics controls that are in the Mitros without a flash. It's a more economical way to do it if you just want to start out with one flash and one controller. This allows you to put your flash anywhere. It's all radio, all the same controls, the same power controls, etc. So I've got my main here with the grid. I'm gonna use both with and without the reflector. Let's see how it looks either way. Without the reflector is going to make the side of Tristan away from the light go very dark. It's gonna be a dramatic lighting ratio. When I bring in the reflector, it will open up the shadows just a little bit. They're both valid looks. You have to pick the one you want. But again, the whole idea is we're doing this all in a small studio, tiny studio even, with just a couple of flash speedlights. So let's see what we get with the speedlight in the softbox. Horizontal first. And that is lovely. Beautiful. Now let's bring in the reflector. And notice I have the reflector very close to her because I really wanted to just open up the shadows behind her. Nice, nice. Oh, that's beautiful. Turn your head towards the light more. And yes, eyes right at me. That was it. That's beautiful. You can see that it's opened up where it used to be really almost black there. Now it's opened it up, and that was just with the reflector. So again, that was back to one light. We're using the second light just as a transmitter. So we got some great results with that. We used the background light both as a hair light and to light the background. When we went to a hair light, I put the grid snoot back on it. We've got the big softbox that's creating a nice light. We can adjust the shadows on the far side with just the reflector. So we're gonna do one more thing and we're gonna be done. We wanna try a couple full length stuff. So in order to do full length, this little fold-up backdrop, as great as it is for headshots, just isn't big enough for full length. So we're gonna get rid of this and we're just gonna use our white paper background for a couple of full length shots and see how we make out. Now, since we've got a white background, TTL is probably gonna underexpose it at first shot. So we're gonna have to open it up a little bit, but let's find out. Bend you at the waist a little bit. There we go, that's it, perfect, perfect. Beautiful. So that was really just an overview, an introduction to what you can do in a very small studio with just a couple of speedlights. We got great results. We have a lot more to explore. So come back again soon, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you later. Okay, we had a lot of fun there. Before we finish up, a couple of questions, and yes, got to put my reading glasses on for this. Somebody asked, does the TTL on these flashes work with Fuji cameras or any other manufacturers? Right now, the Mitros Plus systems work with Nikon, Canon, and Sony. I'm not sure if there are other people that are in line. Hopefully there will be, because these really are great units. They will work manually on pretty much any camera, but to take TTL advantage, then it has to be one of those three. Somebody asked why was I using the diffuser, which I actually have down here, the little diffuser that goes over the dome. When I was bouncing off the reflector, it will cut the power. True that it does cut the power a bit, but the reason I use this is because it does spread out the light beam a lot wider, and I wanted to take advantage of the size of that reflector, because by doing that, it makes for a softer light. So that's why I use this. You might notice when I put in an umbrella, generally I will take this off, because just the way the umbrella works. And speaking of umbrellas, somebody said there are any number of colors for reflectors and umbrellas: silver, gold, pink, white, etc. Any suggestions on which to use? Good question, and it's kind of a long discussion, but let's just go into it real briefly. Silver is the most reflective, so it will give you the most bang for the buck. It allows you to operate your flashes at the lowest power. It's also a very specular light, so it creates very bright highlights. It's nice for speed lights because you can run them at low power and get the most out of them. Personally, I'm a big fan of white. It's a little bit of a softer light. It's a little softer specularity. That's kind of my go-to. There is also gold, which I am not a fan of. I do not like gold reflectors because it adds way too much yellow. However, there is a hybrid gold-silver that is very nice, and there's various different names for it depending on the manufacturer, but that is nice because it does bring in a little bit warmth. There are some people that like pink. I've actually never used pink, so I really can't comment on it. But I do prefer white. I will use silver if I need a lot of output of the flash, and I do love those hybrid gold-silver reflectors. Someone asked about the duty cycle of these flashes. This person has some Nikon flashes with overheating problems when he shoots manually at half power. A couple things going on here. Well, it sounds like you might have Nikon 900s, and they did have an overheating problem, which was fixed in later flashes. You have to realize what you're asking a flash to do. These are still relatively small units, and they're powered by 4 AA batteries. If you constantly pop these things out at half or full power, they're going to get hot. It's better if you can. I generally try to stay at a quarter power or less, quarter, eighth, 16th. Bring your ISO up a little bit, ask a little bit left of the unit, because as any piece of electronics gets hot, it's going to damage it faster, and they won't perform as well. But you can do full power and half power, but you just can't constantly keep popping them. Also, I would recommend going to an external battery system if you like to shoot a lot of flash frequently. That will help the flash recycle much faster. It will keep the internal batteries cooler. It's just a better way to go. So if you want to do that, get one of those external packs. It's a standard fitting, and you can find them everywhere for these units. Here's a question I really can't answer, but somebody asked, why is when the flash on the camera called L for local instead of one of the A flashes? I can only speculate, but I would guess that when the flash is on the camera, it's acting as the commander. So the A and the B flashes that are out off camera are taking their instructions from the flash on the camera. So it can't both be one of those remote flashes and act as the commander at the same time. That would be my guess. Someone asked about what softbox I was using. The primary softbox I used was a 14 by, I believe, 54-inch Photix softbox that's actually designed for the Photix Indra flash. Now that uses a studio mount. It uses a Bowens type mount to fit on the Indras, and I used Bowens adapter to be able to put my flashes in that big softbox. Photix does make one as well. Haven't received it yet. I'm sure it's going to be just great for using with the Photix light shapers. I was pleasantly surprised how easy it was to get great results with TTL flash. When you understand how TTL controls light and put light shapers to use with your off-camera flashes, really the possibilities are endless. This can be a great solution for a small yet very effective portable studio that you can set up in virtually any room of your home, at a client's house, a place of business, or even outdoors on location. The small size and the battery-powered portability of the Mitros Plus makes these units a natural to use in these situations. And in addition, the ability to seamlessly add the Mitros Plus and the Photix radio triggers to your existing collection of gear means that nothing goes to waste. In fact, you might find yourself using some old flash units that have been unused for some time. Now, there's a lot more to explore, but I hope this gave you an introduction to some of the capabilities these Photix systems can bring to your photography and maybe inspired you to want to learn a little bit more. So I recommend, please go visit the new Photix website at photixus.com, and you can explore all the new possibilities for you to enhance your own small and portable home studio. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you online again soon. Bye-bye.